Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. This is my channel's weekly compendium, ending Monday, March 13th, 2023. Case file number 1008, written by Jack Black, The Shack of Whispers. First occurrence. So the Fae Trail is what my buddy called it. I don't know what that is, but it's what he called it. But anyway, we were going for a hike around a lake we live near, and about an hour and a half in, he stops and looks into the woods. I ask what he's looking at, and he just points. I look where he's pointing, and there is a pretty damn near perfect gap in the forest, like trees just didn't grow in this 3 or 4 foot line going straight as an arrow into the forest. So I think it's cool as hell and start walking towards it. He tries to chicken out, but I don't let him. We get to where the trail starts, and he freaks out, because there are mushrooms growing down the sides of the trail, like a border for it. I keep walking, but he literally yanks me back to the normal trail by my backpack and refuses to talk about it for the rest of the hike. I went back a few days later and couldn't find it. I assumed I had just missed it, but he says that it was a fake trail, and that it's gone now. I don't know what he's talking about. Second occurrence. The standing tree happened right outside of my house. There was a massive thunderstorm one day before, and it had struck a tree about 200 feet from my front door and knocked it over. Not a big deal. I'll get rid of it on the weekend, I thought to myself. The storm stopped for a bit, then continued into the next day. I had to leave for work, and I saw the tree down as I opened my door, and when I turned to lock it, there was another strike near my house. I spin around to see if another tree fell, and the tree that was already down was back up at about 45 degrees, and as I stood there being soaked, it kept going up and just stood up again. I feel like reattached would be a more accurate description. I was already going to be late for work, so I went to work, and when I got back home, I checked out the tree. I knew it was the same tree because it had bits of bark blown off of it. I'm 100% sure it was the same tree. It had cracks all along where it had broken, and there were still branches on the ground from where it fell. After that, it just kept growing. In a few months, most of its branches were sprouting again, and it just acted like it didn't fall over. Those marks are still there, although the tree is now dead. Third occurrence. The Whisper Shack is probably the strangest of these stories, and I could go on and on about it. I have some foggy memories of it, and some really clear ones too. The first time I found it, I was just wandering around in the woods looking for stuff to shoot with my new BB gun. I came to a small clearing I hadn't been to before, and there is this little shack that could have been there for God knows how long. It was all sorted out and had definitely seen better days. I figured there might be something inside I could use for targets, so I walked up to it. About 50 feet away from it, I stopped. I don't really know why, but I did. And I had to convince myself to get closer. About 20 feet away, I thought I heard someone say my name. I look around and there's no one there, and I keep walking, and I get to the door and knocked for some reason. From inside, I heard someone say, "Who is it?" It sounded like they were right behind the door because it was really quiet, no more than a whisper. So I bolt and get the hell out of Dodge, because creepy dude in the forest is not going to be how I died. As I get to the edge of the clearing, I look back and the door is open. Not all the way, but kinda like half open, like someone was peeking outside. I didn't go looking for it again, but a few years later, I was walking in the woods doing other kid crap on summer break, but I found the shack again. Not the clearing, but just the shack. It felt like it just appeared there because I didn't notice it at all, and then I'm like 30 feet away from it. I walk up to the door and it's cracked open. I push it all the way open and it damn near falls off its hinges. I go inside and it's empty, except for a table and a chair. There is an old candle on the table that must have been huge from the amount of wax melted onto the table. As soon as I cross the threshold, it feels like someone is breathing down my neck. I spin around and there isn't anyone there. It was probably just wind and nerves. I go in and sit on the stool. It was hot and I was tired. I decided to light the candle because to hell with fire safety. As I'm sitting there, someone whispers in my ear, and I get up and shut the door. I don't remember what I heard or why I shut the door, I just did, and then sat back down and watched the candle. It burned amazingly bright, lighting the whole shack with a flame that I remember as being really big. I remember sitting there and hearing some more whispers that I just can't remember what they said, but all my nerves were gone. I was just relaxing in the glow and warmth of the candle. At some point, I remember getting up and sitting back down on the floor, still watching the candle, then watching the shadows on the wall. They seemed so alive, dancing in time with the flame. It seemed like I spent hours there. Eventually, the whispers told me to get up, but I didn't want to. I sat there for a little longer. They said something else and I got up, grabbed my coat, and stepped into a cold fall afternoon. I was halfway home before I realized that it was fall, and when I went, I was sure it was summer. I get home and everything is normal. My father hugged me when he got home, which he never really did. I just kept living a normal life after that. My grades were really good for that trimester. The next time I remember the shack was in 8th grade. I had gotten this book about how to set traps, and I didn't know I needed a license to do it, so I went to set some deadfall traps and the like. I happened upon the same shack again and remembered what happened last time, so I avoided it. And a few days later, I was checking those traps, and they weren't where I put them. I had about 10 to 15 set up, and they were all arranged in a large circle kind of shape. They weren't like that before, so I took them all down, and when I was looking for the last one, it was right next to the shack. I went inside again, and there was still the table and the stool, but there was no wax and an almost new candle, along with another stool. I remember the whispers coming again, and my nerves died down. I sat in the same stool I did last time. The whispers wanted me to light the candle again, but I didn't. They kept telling me to, but I literally couldn't light the candle. I had my lighter in my hand, but I couldn't move to light the candle. The whispers stayed that soft and comforting tone, and I wanted to light the candle, but I just couldn't. Then they got angry with me. They whispered, but it was like someone trying to whisper when they're really angry, like my mother scolding me in public or something. I really wanted to light it, but I couldn't do it. I sat down in the corner and cried, like really freaking hard, snot-nosed and just bawling like a child. Well, I was a child, but just uncontrollable sobbing. The whispers were quieter in that corner, but they were still angry at me, and I didn't know why. I must have been in that corner for at least an hour and a half, maybe more. Once or twice I got up and tried to light the candle, but I couldn't. I remember whenever I tried to, they were nicer to me, and when I couldn't, they got angry. I'm tearing up thinking about what they said to me. They stopped asking me to light it and started telling me to. Then they berated me, called me names, told me how bad of a kid I was. They told me things I didn't want to know. They told me things about my parents, about my friends, about my teachers, stuff that I didn't want to hear, stuff I shouldn't have known. They told me about my parents' divorce, which came later that year. They told me about my grandfather's death, which happened a year or two later. Many other things that I'd rather not remember, much less mention. Eventually, I stopped crying and got up, stumbled out of the door and went home. Probably took me another 2 hours to get home, stopping to cry more every so many feet. My parents were out for a few days and I didn't go to school. No one asked questions, no one changed. I blamed a lot of things on that day, but most of all, it changed me deeply. I'm a cold person now. I faced down so many situations that would have affected me without any expression, without any feeling. I've had bouts of depression, but I pulled myself out of them. I faced down the barrel of weapons held by myself and by others. I lost a lot that day. Emotions are probably the worst. I felt fear very few times since then, happiness even less. I lost a part of me that day. Maybe it was the part that wanted to live. Damn me. 2 packs of cigs and almost a quarter bottle of Jack later I got that story out. Sorry if I was rambling. Sorry if I was a little too in-depth. This is the first time I've told the whole story. Case file number 1009, written by Z Storm. The universe is running out of NPCs. This first happened when I moved schools. I realized the people there looked extremely similar. I first realized it when I saw one girl who looked almost identical to the girl in the previous school. Then I made friends with someone who looked like an older version of my previous friend. It doesn't help that my teachers look extremely similar to my family as well. Both my PE teachers remind me of my grandpa and stepdad. Not only that, but my history teacher looks extremely similar to my biological dad and has a similar personality to my dad. It's the same with my Spanish teacher, who looks almost identical to my grandma and similar personality. Maybe these are all coincidences, but I just found it weird because there's way more people than I listed that just look like reused models in a game. I really don't know how to explain it. Maybe it's just my mind playing tricks on me, but why does everyone in my life look like reused models from a video game? Case file number 1010, written by Amam Burmad. I saw my twin, but the proof was erased. This is kinda weird, for me at least. It just got me thinking recently. I traveled to attend a forum for a week. It was a stay-in forum with other representatives from my district, and with me is my, let's say, apprentice. It was about a 6-hour flight. We landed and went straight to the venue and hotel. After a day on the forum, me and my apprentice went snooping around, more of a get-to-know-the-place type of thing. And I saw a board of members posted on the wall. I saw someone familiar, and it was me. Face, name, including middle initial, body build, smiling at the picture. I've never been to that place, and my apprentice and I found it funny, so we took pictures and sent it to my wife. My wife sent it to my family. We had a good laugh at it. Didn't think much of it then. Later, a week or two had passed. I thought it would be a great icebreaker to talk about it in the office, so I grabbed my phone to show it to my coworkers, and weirdly, all the photos of him I took were gone. I even called my apprentice, and he has no recollection of the things that happened. Even my wife and family don't remember a thing. I tried looking for the photo in the cloud, but it was gone. I don't know. I just want to share this here. I found it weird, because I clearly remember it happening, and I had pictures. I'll look for it again if I have another chance to go there. Case file number 1011, written by Meganoki, the washing machine that twists reality. Growing up, my parents always had white washers and dryers. They never got new ones. They're just the basic ones, the top loaders. Sometime, maybe a couple months or maybe a year ago, I came home and my parents had red washing machines. They're side loaders. They looked brand new. I asked my mom when they got these. She looked at me confused and said they've always had these for years. She was very adamant about it and confused that I didn't know that. These have always been there since they bought the house. I told her I remember the white ones, and she kept saying, no, these are the ones we've always had. Well, I dropped it but was confused. Like, how did I not remember the washer and dryer I grew up with? Mind you, I moved into that house when I was 10, moved out when I was 19. And I'm almost 25 now. Okay, fast forward to today. I drove to my parents' house, which is about a 3-hour drive. I needed to pick up my birth certificate. So I'm talking with my mom, and then I started looking around the house because I like to see what has changed. The last time I was there was when the red washer and dryer thing happened. I went into the laundry room and saw the white washer and dryer that I remember having growing up. I asked my mom what happened to the red washer and dryer. She said, we had this conversation last time. I've never had a red washer and dryer. These are the same ones from when we got the house. I'm so confused. Bonus file, written by Drinking Vanilla, my phantom Beagle. My house has 2 floors and 1 set of stairs. Only one way up and down. I have 1 dog, a Beagle, and she's not even a year old. I walk into the living room upstairs to grab my wallet, and I see her on the couch next to my son's car seat. I lean forward to see if she's chewing on the little toy that hangs from the handle. She's not. I head downstairs to where my bedroom is. I go down and walk over to my bed, and there is my dog, again, laying in my spot looking at me. I physically got chills all over my body and froze. I had just seen her not 45 seconds earlier on the couch upstairs. There's no way she got down before I did, because there's only one way down, which I took. I run through it over and over in my head, trying to think of what just happened, and I simply do not know. I'm positive I didn't imagine it. I even checked to make sure the reason she was next to the car seat was not to chew on his toys. Case file number 1012, written by Makise Kurisu, 23, The Devil's Footprints. About 15 years ago, I traveled to Spain with my best friend. We were both around 20 at the time, living the carefree young adult life. You know, just two guys having a great time. We were in a warm country, no carefully filled itinerary whatsoever, just living in the moment, doing whatever we felt like. My friend, who originally came from Spain, still had family there, which made the month-long trip very affordable since they offered us free accommodation, a roof over our head, a working bathroom with fresh showers, and 3 meals a day if we liked. They also gave us a spare key, so we could come and go just as we liked. During the day, we often went swimming to keep us as cool as possible, and during the evenings, we often explored the city, went for drinks, or went to a club. On a certain day, somewhat more to the end of the month-long stay there, the father of our host family, my friend's uncle, took us out for a fishing trip. We had a lot of fun out on the sea, although the trip was cut short because we had a bit too much fun consuming beers. The burning summer sun, too many beers, and the wavy feeling of being out on the open sea made for a very bad case of seasickness for both my friend and me. His uncle thought it was funny though. After having an afternoon rest, or as they called it, siesta, and a very fulfilling late-night dinner, we decided to go back out to the beach. We took a couple of cold beers with us. However, we didn't take that many as we were still feeling a bit groggy from before. It was a beautiful night, open sky, no clouds, little to no light pollution, making the twinkling stars very visible and present. Being on vacation, being young, on a still warm but comfortable summer night with a light breeze and a starry sky, it was the perfect moment to talk about the meaning of life, about what we liked to achieve one day, about what was worth it or what wasn't. If there were any other intelligent life out there, or if we would live for another 1,000 years or not. The crashing of the waves against the sand of the beach and the rocks was very calming and was pulling us into a meditative state. Only that moment and that place seemed to exist. There was no outside world, no life with responsibilities, no obligations, no expectations, no working hard to get somewhere. It was at that moment we noticed something was off. The crashing of the sea against the sand of the beach sounded different, harder, like something was moving in it. Under the waves, a vague shape started to form. As it neared the shoreline, it started to get the shape of a dog. We both looked at each other and noticed we had been holding our breaths for about a minute. It took the dog to crawl from the sea to the shoreline. The tension broke because we both burst out laughing because we had been so easily startled by something so innocent. But then, my friend asked a question that made the newly regained light mood go away in an instant. Where did that dog come from, though? There's no one around, and we never saw any dog go into the sea. Neither was any dog swimming around. It came from under the water. Now that he had worded it like that, it seemed rather curious. And actually, that dog seemed pretty big for any existing dog I had ever seen. As it was crawling along the beach, solely illuminated by the first quarter moon, it looked like the size of a small horse, but in the shape of a dog or a wolf with matted fur. It had very present, bony joints in its knees and elbows and walked a bit awkwardly. My friend and I were debating if we should follow the beast and decided we did actually want to find out exactly what it was. I took out my phone and started to film it, as far as any 2008 smartphone could film in the dark. By the time we reached the place at the beach where it had left the water, it had already reached the sand dunes and disappeared in it. We saw it had left a track and decided to follow that into the dunes. We weren't prepared for what we saw next though. The beast had left a track in the sand in the form of individual hoof prints in a straight line, instead of a crisscross pattern as with any four-legged animal. No horse could have walked such a line, and even though it looked like the size of a horse, it hadn't looked anything like the shape of a horse. Neither were horses aquatic animals. We followed the track to the dunes and went over the first dune when we saw the beast standing about 10 meters from us in a speck of moonlight. It didn't look anything like a dog either. It looked like it had the lower half of a goat and the upper half of something like a werewolf or something. Just the dimensions were off, the shapes were awkward. It was such a big animal, neither of us could place it under any existing animal we knew of. with matted fur and bony joints that had just come out of nowhere from under the water. Clearly could walk and survive on the land as well, that left hoof marks in a straight line, because we had just stumbled through the bushes closely behind the beast and had given away our presence. It slowly started to turn its head towards us. While it was turning towards us, it stood on its hind legs. Not only was this an animal that came from under the water, as well as could survive on the land and walk on 4 legs, it could clearly stand and walk very well on 2 legs as well. The beast gained even more size by standing on its hind legs and must have been around 2.5 meters big. It stared at us with red, glowing eyes. These were not to be mistaken with the eyes of any nocturnal animal with reflective eyes. These were actually glowing from within. I felt stuck in my spot, completely frozen, but luckily my friend, who was 2 steps behind me, had the mind to run away and pull me with him. We ran for what felt like an hour, but must have been closer to 10 minutes because we reached the house of my friend's family before we knew it. The beast hadn't followed us, or at least not all the way. We went in and told the entire story to his uncle. Of course, he thought we must still have been drunk and tired and seen things that weren't there. But when we showed him the recording, he went pale. He took a shovel. A gun would have been more impressive against a beast like that, but it's not like the average European just has guns lying around, and asked us to show us where we had seen it. We searched for almost 2 hours, but didn't find the beast again. However, we did find hoof marks, albeit a bit washed up because of the current of the sea. We went back home, trying to make something of what we had just seen, but couldn't. We needed to know what animal we had just seen. We started Googling all kinds of things. Of course, with the lower half of the beast looking like a goat, we stumbled upon a lot of myths about the devil, which we discarded. We had seen an actual live beast that wasn't known by any humanity yet, and wanted to know if any other people had seen anything like it. It was only when we Googled hoof marks, 1 straight line, that we stumbled upon the term the devil's footprints. So it was an actual thing, or at least something that had supposedly been seen before according to myths and stories. But they must have some truth to them since they described exactly what we had just seen with our own eyes. The few days we had left in Spain, we spent our nights out with my friend's uncle trying to find the beast again, but to no purpose as we never saw it again. When I came home a few days later, I saved the recording to my hard drive, not sure what to do with it yet. I didn't want to be the crazy guy that had seen the devil, because I still don't believe I did. I just want to know what animal this was, and how come we haven't documented this beast yet. I tried to forget about it, but couldn't, and a year later I decided I wanted to publish the recording in the hope anyone could make any sense of what we had seen that night. The uncle of my friend hadn't seen the beast in all that time, and had asked around in the town if anyone had seen it, which they didn't. I had switched phones by then, but luckily I had the recording saved on my desktop, where I had replayed it at least 1,000 times. I booted up my desktop and something was wrong. I had to restart the desktop a couple times, and after booting up in safe mode, I got the message my hard drive had scratched. I tried whatever was possible to try, but I couldn't recover the recording in any way. 15 years later, I'm still breaking my head over what the beast we encountered could have been. But by now, it's a story my friends believe to be for making conversation. Only that friend and his uncle are still branded by the experience as well. My friend even took it so far as to go live in Spain again, near the beach where it all happened, and still continues to actively look for the beast to this day. Maybe one day he'll find it? This is a shout out to Martino Silva and their brother, who have insomnia and trouble sleeping in general. And apparently, my videos help them to fall asleep, which is just awesome. I do love hearing that. I hope you guys get good rest. Case file number 10,013, written by Sim Mini. I am the Immortal driver. This happened 24 years ago, in the year 1999. I completely forgot about this incident until I read a Reddit post very similar to my own experience, and it jogged my memory. I was home from college for the summer, visiting my family. One day, I asked my mom to borrow her car so I can go visit my friends who stayed at the dorm during summer vacation. She said I can have it, but I need to be home before 10 a.m. the next morning because she needs a car the next day. My college was about an hour's drive from my house on a good day. Some friends of mine would take it in 45 minutes. The fastest driving time I had heard of was 35 minutes. Late at night, no traffic, driving like the wind. I got to my friend's house, our dorm residence, in the early evening, and we decided to drive down to the nearby casino, about a 30-minute drive, to pass the night. We were a group of about 5, 2 of my roommates, 2 other friends from our dorm, and I. We had a great time playing on the quarter slot machines. Once we were all tired and were ready to leave, we headed to the lobby doors and realized it's early morning, around 5 a.m., and it's pouring rain. It was raining so hard, we could barely see the first row of parked cars just in front of the lobby. We waited for about 30 minutes or so for the rain to slow to a drizzle, so we could drive home and make the 30-minute drive without incident. When we got to the dorm, it was around 6 a.m. and the rain was pouring down again, so I resolved to wait it out as long as I could. I still had to return the car to my mom, and had at least an hour's drive, if not longer, due to the weather. When I left the dorm, it was around 7 a.m. One of my roommates stayed up with me until I left, and we both noted the time as I was leaving. I got to my car a few minutes later and started driving towards the highway. I was really tired since we basically pulled an all-nighter at the casino, but I had to drive home to return the car to my mom. I do not recommend driving tired. I told myself I'll be fine. I cranked up the radio to my favorite station, lit a cigarette, opened the window for some fresh air, and so off I went. Again, please do not drive while tired. Within 10 minutes or so, as I'm driving on the highway, the rain starts pouring again. It was so bad I could barely see the wipers of my car. They were at the fastest setting, and it's like they weren't doing anything. But the rain was kind of hypnotizing. The rhythm sort of started lulling me to sleep, but I didn't really notice. My blinks kept getting slower and slower. What happened next was in a span of about 3 to 5 seconds, not more. It's kind of hard to explain. I was awake one moment, sort of, and the next my consciousness woke up to darkness. Kind of like when you wake up in the morning, but you haven't opened your eyes yet and you are slowly starting to be aware of your surroundings. How comfortable and warm you are in your bed, etc. That's basically what happened. I am aware of being awake, but it's dark. I don't even notice my eyes are closed. I'm comfortable, but I seem to be in a sitting position. My hands are holding on to something, but I'm not sure what it is exactly. I'm just really comfortable and I don't want it to change. I kept thinking, just 5 more minutes. I don't know for how long my eyes were actually closed. Suddenly, I hear a really, really loud crash, almost sounding like a clap, but unlike anything I ever heard before. It sounded like metal on metal, but I wasn't sure. It got me to open my eyes, and the first thing I notice is that I'm in my car, and all I see from the window is a wave of water heading towards my windshield really fast. When it hit the windshield of the car, it sounded like the glass should have broken from the impact. It was the loudest slap sound I ever heard, before or since. I'm in momentary shock as I take in my surroundings. I'm still in my car, driving perfectly straight in the leftmost lane. On my left is a concrete barrier just a couple feet away. On my right, I was just overtaken by a huge 18-wheeler truck. That is what made the wave slap my windshield. Heart pounding, I rubbed my eyes and forced them open as far as they would go. Determined to stay awake, I turned the music louder and opened the window to let the rain hit me in the face, along with some much-needed fresh air. The entire time I was thinking, holy crap, I could have died. I probably should have died. Then another thought hit me. What the frick was the first loud crash I heard? The time elapsed between the first and second claps was about 1 second. Me hearing the loud clap, opening my eyes to a wave that crashes to the window with another but different sounding loud clap. But all of this wasn't the craziest part yet. Since the rain was very strong, I wasn't driving more than 50 to 60 kilometers an hour as opposed to the usual 100 kilometers an hour. This means that the trip should have taken twice as long as it normally would have. I figured I would be home by 9 a.m. at the latest. The rest of the drive was uneventful, and I made it to my building, drove into the very large garage and all the way in the back to my parents' parking spot. Then I walked back to the elevators by the entrance and took the elevator to the 19th floor. Walked down a long hallway to my apartment, went into my room and crashed on the bed. Right before I passed out from fatigue and probably shock, I remembered to send my roommate a text message to let her know I made it home safely. I was so tired I'd even check what the time was. I just crashed. I woke up to a bunch of messages from my roommate. I don't remember them verbatim, but they were something like, "What? No way! You must be joking! Where are you? Hello? How did you get home so fast? No way you're already home. Are you okay?" It takes me a while to figure out what she's talking about, while remembering my harrowing journey from the morning, because it was then that I noticed the time of the text that I had sent her before I went to sleep. It was showing at 7:20 a.m. There is no way that it's possible to travel around 90 kilometers in a span of 20 minutes in a rainstorm, where you can't even see the lanes of the road or even the hood of your car, while trying desperately not to fall asleep and apparently failing at that. I don't know what to make of this. After reading a whole bunch of other glitch stories, I'm pretty sure it may have been a case of quantum immortality. However, ever since that day, I have been experiencing all kinds of paranormal phenomena throughout the years. I'm pretty sure this was the catalyst event to them all. Well, except for one. This memory is now so clear, as if it happened yesterday. I will never forget it. Case file number 10,014, written by Hannah B. Art. My boyfriend mysteriously vanished, then reappeared? About 3 years ago, my partner and I lived in a top floor flat, 5th floor, no elevator, stairs only flat on the floor. It was okay sized, but small enough that you could hear anything going on from any room really. They were all very close together. There was one corridor connecting all the rooms, so you'd cross each other if you were changing rooms. I was working a late shift and got in around 11:30ish, maybe midnight. Boyfriend was obviously already in bed, so I came in and went straight to the bathroom to wash up, get changed and wind down, etc. Pottered in the kitchen for maybe 10 minutes and had a drink, then headed into the bedroom for the night. I get in and I can't see my boyfriend. Presume he's just rolled up in the duvet or something, so I go over and move the duvet, and he's literally not in bed. I move the whole duvet back, he's not there. I turn the light on, check the whole room top to bottom. Thought he might be pranking me, waiting to jump out or something. Nope, not there. First thought is, okay, maybe he's in the spare room on his computer having a late night. Nope. In the bathroom and we just missed each other's paths somehow? Nope. I checked the whole flat, top to bottom, every room, doors still locked. He is genuinely nowhere. I would hear him if he was sleepwalking or something. Getting panicked, I text him. This is important. Where are you? Maybe for some crazy reason he's gone out for a walk or something. No response after a few minutes, so I decided to check around one last time. I go into the bedroom. He's in bed. The light's off. He's snoring as if he's been out for hours. I wake him up and explain everything that just happened. He groggily suggests I was dreaming, but he checks his phone and the text is there, plain as day. It definitely happened. He's convinced to this day he was asleep the whole time. The whole thing is bizarre to me. He definitely wasn't there. Where the fuck did he go? He's absolutely certain he was asleep in bed the whole time. But the text proves I wasn't dreaming and I know he wasn't there. Why would I panic and text otherwise? To this day, I have no idea what the fuck happened and I don't think I ever will. People I tell this story to are also just as perplexed. I don't think they believe me. Case file number 10,015, written by Booty Connoisseur, the teriyaki sauce bottle that changed sizes. I made some food earlier today and went to the fridge to grab some teriyaki sauce. I have always kept my teriyaki sauce in the same place, by the way, along with all the other things I put in the fridge door. I keep it in the top right shelf with sriracha, sour cream, and Parmesan cheese. They always go to the same place. Anyways, I pulled out the teriyaki sauce, put some on my food, but when I went to put it back, it won't fit into the spot it was in anymore. I just thought that maybe it was a tight squeeze, but it literally won't fit anymore. I tried for around 20 minutes trying different arrangements and trying to find the way that all the things in that shelf could have fit together, but it won't work. Super confused. After I had thought about it more, I remembered pulling out the teriyaki sauce very easily as well, and I always have been able to pull it off super easily out of the shelf. I don't know how in the world all of those things fit into that compartment. First time I've ever come across something like this. Before you ask, nothing could have fallen or moved in that compartment in the 5 to 10 seconds that I used the teriyaki sauce. I even kept the fridge door open when I put it on. Like I said, I've always kept the same things in that fridge compartment. The size of the bottle did not change after I used it, and none of the sizes of anything in that compartment should have changed. Case file number 10016, written by Gundam's 93cm Titties. The time-destroying bathroom. Today, me and my friends went to Carl's Jr. after school for some food. Me and my friends are 16 to 17, by the way. This isn't a childhood story, technically. And I needed to pee. So after we all ordered, I went to the bathroom and did my business. And when I first walked into the small bathroom with 2 stalls, a lady who was washing her hands complimented my shoes. I said thanks, and she left the bathroom after that. When I exited the bathroom and walked over to where my friend sat, I mentioned the lady and the compliment she gave me. I was wearing some wacky shoes, so it was notable. They all proceeded to say that no one left the bathrooms, which makes sense as there was no one else in the restaurant at the time, and this lady had a pink shirt on and was not an employee. One of my friends gets up and goes to the bathroom to check for the woman, but to no avail. They did say that they experienced some oddities, like the music and smell being off. Then I get up to investigate for myself and walk into the bathroom again and look around. I couldn't have spent more than a minute there, and I didn't notice anything amiss. I walk over to my friends and they ask what took me so long. Apparently I was gone for 10 minutes. I get confused and say that I only spent a minute in the bathroom looking for that woman, and all my friends proceed to get more confused and tell me that I didn't tell them about a woman of any sort. At first I thought they were joking. I told them to quit it and give it to me straight. They then gave evidence for me spending 10 minutes in the bathroom, and they kept to their story. Even many hours later now, they haven't caved, which is a very impressive bit, or they are being truthful. I believe the latter because my friends know very well that I got distressed over this, and one of my friends started doing their own research into what was happening too. None of my friends are good at lying too. They have huge tells and crack after little effort. Needless to say, the entire situation was odd, and I'm not entirely sure what happened. The lady disappeared, my friends acted entirely differently, and I lost time.
Case notes for file 1008, The Shack of Whispers. Well, this was an incredible story to read. Thank you for sharing it. And I'm really sorry that it hit you so hard. But just know, I don't think that makes you weak or inferior in any way. If it happened to me, I might have reacted the same way. Dependency on something else to mask the immense weight it placed on your soul and your mind. It kind of sounds like whatever entities they were preying on your good nature and your childlike innocence, and they robbed that of you. It's almost like Dementors in Harry Potter, but unlike there, it doesn't go away after they leave. Maybe chocolate will help? I mean, chocolate's always good, so you can't go wrong with trying that. Have an entire Hershey bar. You have a good excuse. And you didn't do what they wanted, which in my estimation is a good thing. I don't know exactly what it's like a ritual that they were trying to invoke. I don't know what exactly it would do, but I'm glad that you didn't go along with it. The first time you did it, where the candle was lit, and then time elapsed, where you thought it was summer but then it was fall. That's so mysterious, because everyone adapted to your being there, like normal. It's not like you went missing for a few months. So it's almost like you were temporarily moved forward, but in a timeline where you had already done all the actions you would normally have done. But it also kind of feels like a different universe, because you say your dad acted differently, hugging you where he normally wouldn't have. It's altogether quite mysterious. And now time for the quote of the day. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. Aubrey Hepburn. I do love wordplay, so this is masterclass level. I'm possible. Yes. So technically untrue. There are things that are literally impossible to do, like bench pressing a mountain, within the context of reasonable possibility and the laws of basic physics. Yes, And if your mindset is that this is possible, you're going to get somewhere with that mindset. It's better to have that mindset than to think that, it's almost everything is impossible. It's not even worth trying. Like I'm always saying, if you don't try, you're guaranteed to fail. It's no way to go through life. Case notes for file 1009. The universe is running out of NPCs. So the obvious suggestion that many people would have and did have is that this is some sort of face blindness. I forgot the exact technical name for that. It's where people can't distinguish one face to another. Thing is, you describe that personality changes as well, and you're not saying that every single person in your life looks like someone else, just a lot of them do. If you're able to differentiate some faces, or most faces, it's just that many others do look similar, then I wouldn't say it's face blindness. I don't know if it's actual NPCs of the universe. It's a question I've had. How many people, human beings that are out there, are truly connected to a soul? And with so many iterations of so many copies of universes in the great multiverse, I'm wondering, are there base templates that are just operating similar to how their copies would operate, but they don't necessarily have a soul connected? And just in general, there may be plenty of NPCs running around, hyper-advanced AI. I mean, hell, in this universe, if this is a simulation, we already have AI that can replicate human beings pretty well. Nothing close enough to quite pass in the long term, but if we live in a simulation, then the AI running it, the computer, would be hyper-advanced. So is it possible that some human beings are literally just NPCs? Maybe. I won't presume that in any individual I meet, but in a general sense, yeah. And then there's a question of, can we choose to connect to a character that was going through the motions and was just a character in the universe? It wasn't an actively connected player later in life. You think, you die, that's the last person you have in any universe, and then you wake up in the real world. Well then, can you just immediately jump back into a grown adult, or do you have to start as a baby? Maybe you can just jump into a later stage of life. Kinda fascinating, really. Case notes are file 1010. I saw my twin, but the proof was erased. So, this is very peculiar. If it's just a universal switch, then that means that in the original universe, you did actually have your twin that you were seeing. And then you switch universes, and in that case, there was no twin of you in that universe, or he just wasn't in that venue where you were staying or exploring. Otherwise, it's not just an astral projection of yourself because it was a picture, it was posted on the board. Unless we go back to the idea I had where an astral projection could literally just be out there living its own life, completely oblivious to the fact that it's just a fragment of a soul of someone else. That's a bit out there and probably not the case. An unlikely event of seeing your twin in a picture and then switching universes. And in that one, no one knew what the hell's going on. Or it could also be a timeline fix. That wasn't supposed to happen. You weren't supposed to see the you there, and not seeing it will produce better results in the long run for whatever timeline reason that the universe has. Because I think there are alterations made in the buffer sometimes. I think that's much rarer though than just moving universes. Alterations are last resort, I guess you could say. Case notes are file 1011. The washing machine that twists reality. So this reminds me of the story I narrated where someone, I think it was just, he might still have been a kid, but he grew up in the same place, and they always had an oak table, or it might have been always a glass table, and then it switched to an oak table, or vice versa, but it did switch by his perception. But his parents didn't think it switched, and when he checked pictures going back, it was always either a glass or oak table, like the parents were saying, but to his memory, it was the other. Thing is, in that story, it didn't switch back. In this case, the washing machines do. So what the hell's going on there? Is it just a double transition? Double quantum immortality? Or were you just temporarily in that other universe for some reason without it being quantum immortality? That does happen. More rare for that to happen and also interact with people in those universes. Maybe there was that one case in the story with Subway. There's so many mind-warping events that go on because of all these universal transitions that aren't explainable exactly the reasons why they happen outside of quantum immortality, which is simple. The rest is unclear as to the cause, but still fascinating to read. Case notes for the bonus file. My phantom Beagle. So is this a case of, again, peering into a different universe when you're upstairs, where your Beagle was in that universe, upstairs just sitting by the child seat, maybe not chewing on the toy, but still just chilling there? Then you go downstairs, you're back in your normal universe, and the Beagle was downstairs. Obviously, it didn't actually move in any physical space, just different universes. There's also, of course, astral projection, maybe because she was too lazy to actually walk upstairs to go chill by the child seat. I know some dogs can be lazy. Mr. Ben has been kind of lazy as of late, and refusing to eat kibble. I have to give him wet food now. He's such a gourmet fancy pants. He needs to do the fancy pants dance and get Michelle out here. I wonder if Red and Link will rent her out for just an evening. Maybe Mr. Ben will be happier after that. And now, time for the quote of the day. The bad news is that time flies. The good news is you're the pilot. Michael Altschuler. Indeed, and you can be the ace pilot. You can be Tom Cruise if you want to be. Not literally, but you can have his mindset. Pilot that plane extremely fast, but be precise. It's keen to know what you want to do and what you want to grasp out of life. We're always moving in time and space. Mostly in time. And then you have to decide, okay, I can steer the ship, I can't stop it, I can't make it go much faster or much at all in the technology we have. So I know I'm moving forward, and I know my speed. Where do I want to go? Think about that. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? Maybe it'll take a bit longer or a bit quicker, but you need to know where you want to go. Otherwise, you're wandering aimlessly through the desert with no compass. You're not going to get anywhere. Case notes for file 10,012. The Devil's Footprints. So your friend's uncle was kind of a badass. Imagine hearing about some amphibian demonic goat beast and then wanting to go after it with a shovel. Damn. Hardcore, I'd say. So apparently in Russia they fight bears. I guess in Spain they fight demon goats? You learn something new every day. Now, of course, was it really a demon? Probably not, or the devil. It makes you wonder though, because your computer crashed when you wanted to share it. It's almost like there was an entity spotting you, tethered to you, and knew your intent, because you watched the video, say, thousands of times from your computer, but only the time you wanted to share it, that's when the hard drive was corrupted. Now, yeah, maybe that part is just a coincidence, a really strange one, but it's possible. Hard drives fail, especially older disk-style hard drives, not SSDs. SSDs also fail, but it's less common unless you're writing to it a lot. You have that instance where it could certainly be just coincidence. And in that case, yeah, maybe this is actually just some kind of amphibian hybrid beast that we've never seen before. The world is unfathomably vast. I think people don't quite appreciate how big it is. Is it possible there's some creature out there that can breathe on land and also underwater, or at least underwater for some amount of time, maybe not permanently? So it came from deeper in the ocean and just came on shore. You have to ask yourself a few questions on that though, because for a species to propagate, it probably needs a fair few of them, and you'd think we would have seen some by now, because if they do frequently come ashore, someone would have seen it by that point. Is it just some beast that we haven't discovered yet? There's certainly a few stories about that. Or is it some entity manifesting itself in physical form? And we know that it is really physical form because the phone captured it. It wasn't just in your mind. That is the most interesting aspect to the story, that it really was physically real, whatever it was. An entity with physical form that had red glowing eyes. Damn. That definitely sounds like it's meant to be perceived as a threat, one way or another. And now time for the quote of the day. He who has a why to live can bear any how. Nietzsche. It's like when you go to the gym. You don't go there just to lift and hold on to weight for no reason. You have a purpose in mind. A reason that gives you the motivation and discipline to continue to go every single day, well, or every other day, however often you go, but consistently. You need to have that core guiding North Star of your life to know where you want to go, what direction you're moving towards, and the reason why that goal matters to you. You have to figure that out, and the earlier the better. Of course, for most people, it takes quite a long time. And honestly, it's not really taught in schools. You're not told to find the reason why you want to focus on your life, the reason why you want to direct yourself with all your energy and might and intellect and wisdom towards any given area. You're just said, well, study this stuff and, if you like something, cool. It's not enough. You need more. What is your reason for being? If you find that, I think you'll be able to say, no matter what happens, I got this. Case notes are file 10,013. I am the Immortal driver. So this is a wild confluence of glitches, and if quantum immortality is involved, which you'd think it could be, because in a situation like that, driving on the freeway in heavy rain, with such heavy rain that you can't see with the wipers going full blast, next to a 18-wheeler, yeah, probably something bad happened there. But it's not the end of the discussion, because you know that you literally traveled faster than physically possible because of the text, and because your friend reacted to the point where they didn't understand at all how it's possible you traveled in that length of time. If somehow it was just quantum immortality, and you left earlier than you thought in the other universe, well, your friend wouldn't have reacted in a way that would suggest that it's odd. No. It really is a point where somehow you had a quantum immortality event, probably. Maybe you didn't, actually. And maybe this is just a time glitch. Maybe the perceived glitchiness of the driving event where you had this, maybe it was kind of like precognition, where you knew something was coming, your mind snapped you out of it with this loud sound that wasn't real. It was just what was real of what would have happened if you didn't wake up. And then you perceived the splash of water on the windshield from the 18-wheeler as very loud. But that simply could be because you're in this daze from being in and out of consciousness. You know, when you first wake up, if someone wakes you up, even a tiny noise can sound like insanely loud, or even a touch can feel really intense because your mind's not all there yet, still rebooting. That I could see as maybe not even being a glitch in that context. May have been, you may have been in a new universe, but it's not related to the time glitch. It seems like there's also this space-time portal involved where you somehow traveled much further in a tiny amount of time compared to what you're supposed to be able to. I'm always fascinated by that. Why they happen so often when driving, and also why they always seem to direct you still in the direction that you're going in, or mostly. It's not like you're taking one and you appear in a new country or in the ocean or outside in outer space. You know, it's all confined in this geographic area that makes sense to the person that experiences it. So something odd is going on there. It's not random. It seems intentional. Very curious. And also, just to reiterate, do not drive while you're tired. It's a great point to make, and not enough people realize just how impaired their senses and reaction time is when they're tired. I think it was like if you only got 4 hours of sleep, or it might have been 2 hours, I'm not sure, a very heavy lack of sleep. They compared that to the reaction times of someone that was heavily intoxicated, and they found that the person that was tired actually performed worse than the person that was drunk. That's really bad. Rest up before you go on the road. It's not something you can get marks on your driver's license for, or go to jail, because how do you test for that, you know? You have to prove that you slept 8 hours before you can go on the road. Obviously, it's not tenable to police that, but it's still something you can control in yourself, you know, and for your own safety, really. Sleep well. And it's something that I struggle with myself. I try to at least get 7 cups. And if it's absolutely unavoidable, I would say at least infuse yourself with like 5 cups of coffee. So get that reaction time back up. I think you could just take a reaction time test. That would help. There's also decision making that is impaired, so it's not just your speed of reaction. I know life is unavoidable sometimes, and I struggle with sleep all the time. And it's funny running this channel and helping so many people fall asleep, but I can't do it myself. If I can, I love sleeping, but I hate having to sleep, if that makes any sense. There's too much stuff to do and, you know, experience. I don't want to bother with sleeping. And then when I'm sleeping, it's amazing. And when I wake up, I don't want to wake up, but it's this repeating cycle. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And now time for the quote of the day. Lost time is never found again. Benjamin Franklin. Yeah, it's that ever-present Grim Reaper in the great distance, looming over us. I want to live forever. I don't know if that'll be scientifically possible within my own lifetime. And of course, you know, if we live in a simulation, maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe I will just wake up and restart the game. I'd rather not risk it just in case it's not a simulation and, you know, there's no afterlife. I just want to figure out a way to maintain this body and mind to go on forever. That'd be cool. There's too many things to experience. Technically not forever. I don't want to be immortal to the sense where I can't die no matter what. Because eventually you reach the heat death of the Because eventually you reach the heat death of the universe, and then what are you going to do then? Just drift forever? Or be in absolute entropy and you can't do anything? I want to have the ability to check out when I want to check out, and not have it just thrust on you, you know, arbitrarily. Because that kind of sucks. Too many places to go. And that's before we even unlock reasonable space travel. If we unlock that, well, literally, the universe becomes our ocean. The final frontier. Case notes are filed 10,014. My boyfriend mysteriously vanished and then reappeared? So it seems that you were entirely out of sync with your original universe, perhaps multiversal peering. You were physically moved to a different reality, a different universe, temporarily. Not in quantum immortality because your entire body was there. Or at least your perception was. Maybe your soul took over someone else's body, a copy of yours, in a different universe, temporarily. In that universe, your boyfriend wasn't home for some reason. Maybe you didn't even have one. But you returned to your original universe, and then when you returned, you weren't in the room. Your boyfriend was there in the bedroom, but you were maybe back in the kitchen area or somewhere else, wherever you were when you sent the text, and then you went to check the bedroom, and then he was there, because he was always there from his perspective in that universe. But the key is that you had to be back in your original universe when you sent the text, otherwise it wouldn't be on your boyfriend's phone. So the time delay between that is where you came back. Maybe a bit before that, but it couldn't be after. And I guess in this entire timeline of this glitch, this transposition between universes, you didn't feel anything. It's amazing to me that this entire process doesn't have any physical sensation. But then again, I guess the soul doesn't have pain receptors? Or like it can't feel queasy or get multiverse ocean seasickness? I guess that's not a thing. Case notes are filed 10,015. The teriyaki sauce bottle that changed sizes. Yeah, perhaps just a displacement between universes again. Instead of a person, this is an object, a physical mass. From a different universe, you had a sauce bottle there that was a bit bigger, and in that universe maybe you have a fridge that is slightly bigger, or you put the sauce bottle in a different area in the fridge where it would fit over there. But in this universe it doesn't fit because it's a bit too big. That seems to be the case. I can't imagine anything else unless the universe literally has an error where it forgot what the size of the bottle was supposed to be. But even then, you had it in your hand the whole time, right? It only took like 10 seconds to apply the sauce on your food. So you didn't feel it grow in your hand or anything like that. It didn't change sizes. So that is altogether very odd. I guess if it just switched in your hand, maybe you weren't looking at it for that whole 10 seconds. In that brief moment where it was out of sight, maybe in your peripheral vision only, it increased in size from a different universe's version. The classic multiversal switcheroo. Also, I have to say, I like your name. These names these days. People are creative. Case notes are filed 10,016. The time-destroying bathroom. Yeah, this is another one of those whole ensemble of glitch stories where multiple glitches are happening at the same time. So you have multiversal peering, or maybe an entire switch of universes where you saw this lady that wasn't actually there when you came out. So in that time frame, that short time frame, between being in the bathroom, seeing the lady, and then emerging later, you were in a different universe. Or you were just seeing the woman in the pink dress in another universe, and then when she left the bathroom, your perception returned to your original universe. But then you also later on lost time, and then when you emerged from the bathroom having lost time, your friends didn't remember the lady. So there was also an actual switch of universes involved, which also translated to some time loss, which normally there is no time loss. All the universes are running concurrently. So unless there was a lag period where your soul wasn't inhabiting anything, maybe you were stuck in a dead pocket universe where no one was around, but your memory was wiped of that. I think in those areas where people are transposed between universes, their soul has to actually travel there, and maybe if the universe is far away, there's a lag period. So in that period of time, it's like a loading screen, I guess you could say. They're in a dead pocket universe. But I don't think we're supposed to remember that. Sometimes people do, and they bring back remarkable stories of entirely dead worlds where no one else is there. So then you're in the new universe, and there was a time lag, so from your perspective, it was a minute, because you don't remember the other 9 minutes where you were in this dead pocket server. That's a whole ensemble of glitches going on. Multiversal peering, and then a dead pocket server from quantum immortality, your soul jumping to a new universe, and then because of not remembering that dead server, you lost time. That's quite something to happen in a span of a few minutes. Seems like you'll be okay. It's quite amazing what can happen to us in such a short amount of time, and with no long-term implications. Apparently our souls are very robust, which is a very good thing. I'm glad about that. And now time for the quote of the day. We judge others by their actions, and ourselves by our intentions. Stephen Covey. Now, isn't that true? Intention matters, so applying intention to our own parameters and choices in life is sensible, but we should include that in the factoring of other people. Are they being purely malicious if they do something bad, or are there other exigent circumstances that should be taken into account? We do take that into account, I guess, in law, like there's differences between murder or involuntary manslaughter, things like that. First degree murder, third degree, and so on. If you plan it out versus acting in the heat of the moment, it's a different scenario, and there's different consequences for that because, taking things from intent matters. But beyond just legal ramifications or insanely potent actions like murder or anything like that, if you're just talking about general day-to-day things, people's opinions about things, I think these days, especially over the last, 10 years, the last decade, where people think that everyone else is only out for themselves, there's no benefit of the doubt, people don't steelman each other anymore. They strawman each other. And it's all just to win the game or something, win the argument. I think we need to get back to taking each other's intentions into clear consideration. And yeah, maybe some people are actually just bad people. But even then, trying to understand their position can help in future encounters with other people. Like the video, subscribe. Kinetic Symphony signing off.